Hello, and welcome back to the Ocean Stewart Library. Thanks for joining me today. I've got to tell you, I'm fascinated with coral reefs. Incredible ecosystems so vitally important to ocean health and sustainability. So I'm always on the lookout for books about coral reefs. Today, we're going to take a look at Life on the Rocks, Building a Future for Coral Reefs by Juli Berwald. Life on the Rocks was published in 2022 at a very different time for ocean health and sustainability here in the U.S. Juli Berwald has a PhD in ocean science from the University of Southern California. She is also the author of Spineless, The Science of Jellyfish and the Art of Growing a Backbone. That was published in 2017. So Life on the Rocks covers Juli's 3-year coral journey that starts with her attendance at the Reef Futures meeting in Key Largo in 2018. Her passion was reignited after observing the damage to the reefs and the health of the limited number of fish while snorkeling at a cruise ship's private island. You can imagine what that was like. With her background in ocean science and previous field work, it seems that her investigative nature kicked in, and off we go. After coming back from the Reef Futures meeting, her first stop was at the University of Texas at Austin, her own backyard. She lives in Austin. That's where she meets Misha Matz, the principal investigator at the University of Texas Coral Genetics Laboratory. Now, if you know anything about corals, you'll know that corals live in a symbiotic relationship with algae. Misha calls this relationship the badass merger, the merger between the coral polyps and the zooxanthella. The rest of the upfront chapters provide a little more detail on the science of coral reefs. It's a nice primer or summary of the complexity of these tiny animals. She also sets the stage for bleaching. Here comes the debate. Kind of like the chicken or the egg. Does the algae decide to leave and start the bleaching process, or do the coral polyps kick them out? Well, it is an interesting enigma. The fact remains that corals around the world are bleaching due to the increase in water temperature, due to climate change. Not a hoax. Yes, some corals seem more resistant to bleaching than others. We get much more detail in the book about the work to figure it out and try to understand why they're resistant. And now Juli starts our journey around the world, first in Florida. There are many restoration organizations in the Florida Keys, like the Coral Restoration Foundation, and the work being done through fragmentation. We are also introduced to the outbreak of stony coral tissue loss disease, or SCTLD, Skittle-D, a major threat throughout Florida and the Caribbean. Then it is off to Sulawesi in Indonesia. Now, having just been to Indonesia, I found this quite interesting. I've seen some of the challenges, and that's where Mars Incorporated has stepped in. Yes, Mars, the candy company, but there are also a major pet company, including Pedigree, Whiskas, and Sheba. Mars had a factory in Sulawesi, and that's where Frank Mars decided to do something about the state of the reefs. It is a fascinating story of how they developed a system to outplant corals and how they work with individual islands in their leadership. It can be done with investment and fortitude. From there, Juli takes us to Bali for some coral farming, then on to the Dominican Republic, where the Iberostar resorts sponsor the Wave of Change program with a focus on coral reproduction. Somehow we know that funding is key, and that's when we head to Washington and the challenges of spending. Ocean efforts get very little of the pie. The book wraps up as we enter into and then slowly exit from the COVID-19 pandemic and the challenges that were placed on restoration efforts. Not only the challenges of the pandemic, but also the social challenges we faced here in the U.S. But there is optimism, at least back then, as the new administration took climate change and environmental issues seriously. Now, in 2026, the dark clouds have gathered once more as we slip further and further away from being good stewards of the planet. Now, throughout the book, Juli is incredibly open to the challenges she is facing in her personal life with her daughter's health. It gives us pause to understand that personal challenges exist in everyone's life, and we need to sometimes take a step back and maybe not be judgmental because you never know what someone is going through. So there you have it. This brief review of Life on the Rocks by Juli Berwald. I highly recommend this one for anyone who has a love of the coral reefs or who is looking to learn more about the complexity, strength, and vulnerability of these amazing systems. Now, I think I need to consider her other book, Spineless. Stay tuned. Thanks again for coming to the library. Please give us a like and hit the subscribe button to stay up to date on all things in the channel.